to make a soap sculpture. So we are going to be doing, it's like a negative sculpture where we're taking away from it, a subtractive sculpture, that's what it's called. So we're going to be carving into it and taking little pieces away and then creating something out of it. So you have to create something smaller than the piece of soap or it won't work. Soap, it is kind of hard to carve, so you're not going to be getting too detailed. Also, you're not going to be able to make too many pieces that come off of this because it's pretty fragile and it will break. This soap, I used dial, it was really soft to carve. Yours might be a little bit harder, and I think that's probably a good thing because this one I almost can just like bend it just by pressing it. But think about what you want to make. It needs to fit in the shape. We're going to draw it on a piece of paper, then draw it on our soap and start slowly carving it away. Be careful if you're using even a butter knife that you're just careful and you don't cut yourself with it. And try to do this on a plate or a tray or something because you're going to get soap everywhere. Also, keep the little soap carvings. Maybe you can make something out of them. Let's get started. Let's unwrap our soap first. And if you don't have a square bar of soap, that's okay. Even if it's curved and round, it'll be all right. Look, this has a big word written right across the middle of it. So I'm gonna flip it over. I'm just gonna use this side. All right, first let's figure out what we wanna make in this soap, and you could make whatever you want. You just want something that's kind of together. You don't want like an arm sticking out. You maybe could have like a little horn coming off, but I wouldn't do two big tall ears. It's really hard to get those things to not break. So first I'm just tracing my soap onto this paper, and then I'm gonna draw kind of a design, and I'm gonna try to use most of my paper. Or most of the soap. So I wanna kind of do a bear. So I'm just gonna draw like a bear head right here, and then a bear body. And I'm gonna keep all of the bear's legs together, like that. And I want it to have just a tiny little round bear tail. And then two bear ears. So pretty simple, right? We have two legs, a bear tail, and it's gonna be one ear on one side and one ear on the other side. We'll see. It might not work out that way. Once you've traced your drawing, or once you've drawn it, you kind of want to place it over your soap. And you can either trace it onto there or you can just draw it in. It might be easier to draw it in. So I've got the bear's nose, and then his like neck, and then his legs are coming in and they go together. There's a little tail, and then the back of the bear's ear. I've got to make sure I get that in. Just move the little carvings so you can kind of see it better. So once you've outlined those shapes, you can use your pencil like I'm doing, and I'm just really carving it in. For some reason, it looks like this bear is running. I don't know why, but it looks a little, I don't know what's going on. Your pencil is a great carving tool. Oh, that's why I had this paper here. Once you draw it on there, and you could trace it through or you can just sketch it right on. Some people, it's helpful for them to cut out their patterns. You could cut this shape out and then put it on your soap and then cut it out. If that's easier for you, you could do that. So now let's grab our tools. Let's get a little closer here so you can see what's going on. And I definitely would recommend doing this on a plate because there's going to be a lot of soap carvings and you could still use them. So the toothpick is probably a little too thin. What you want to use this butter knife, this is a really little one, you want to get these big chunks off. So start kind of away from it, peel it away. So this is for the big pieces. It makes sense because it's big. So you're just going to kind of carve into that. Take the big pieces away first. I want to be careful next to the face because that's a pretty important part of this. This particular soap is kind of like soft. I don't know, I've never seen that. It's like almost like dough. Usually, and your soap might not be the softest, usually it's not this soft. This is like really easy to carve into. Maybe because it's summertime, it's hot right now here. Okay, so I've got a lot of these bigger areas off. You can keep your drawing just to use as a reference, but I'm gonna start kind of rounding mine out. So you can use your toothpick, I use it a lot, but you could actually use your, what are these called? Paper clips. You could use your paper clip to start kind of rounding the edges. You might wanna stop and look at it and be like, oh, okay, this doesn't really look like a bear anymore. It looks like a horse. What happened? And then you can kind of redraw your shape on there and make changes to make it look like what you want it to look like. And this will be cool because the bear's texture will be kind of fun to carve in. So I don't want a complete space in between these legs, but I do want to show that there's two bear legs kind of just together. So depending on what you're carving, you might not be carving the same thing as me, but you can kind of see, trace it in first, then use your butter knife. Be careful, this isn't sharp, but you could still get hurt with anything, I guess. And then just carve the big, huge pieces out. And then you can use your pencil or your paper clip or your toothpick to kind of start really making that shape. So I don't want it to be flat, I really want it to be round, and it looks somehow like a moose a little bit right now, and I'm trying to figure out why. I think I need to just turn it back into a bear somehow. And maybe yours will change. Maybe it's started out as a cat or a bear like mine, and maybe it's going to end up being something else, and that's okay. Okay, now I want it to be round, so I'm just starting to carve off these hard edges with my butter knife. And then I'm just gonna come back in here, make sure I get that nice round tail, because the face doesn't quite look like a bear, so I really need this tiny little tail to make it into a bear. It might not, but either way, we're gonna have fun trying to make it that way. And the legs, maybe they'll come in just a little bit because the body is rounded. So I'm just carving that whole area down. All right, now I've got a lot of it carved on this side. Now I'm gonna turn it around and start a little bit on the back side. Okay, now I'm gonna look at the top and I'm gonna make a little line through here because there's two ears. Do you see that? So I'm just kind of carving those out, and they look a little strange, but that's okay. Remember, it's the experience, right? We're just trying to have an experience and learn about the different things we can use these materials for, and this is all just a practice. Okay, I'm just trying to round the shape of the top of this head out to be a little bit more bear-like. I'm no bear expert, but it seems like different than a crocodile might be. So it's starting to look a little bit more like a bear maybe. I still think it might be this note. This part right here, it just seems too long for a bear. So smooth out some of those hard edges. You can use any tool that you would like. Don't forget about the back. And the tail isn't long, so I'm gonna carve into the sides of it and make it into more of a circle instead of like a little shelf. You are probably not making as big of a mess as me. I usually make the biggest ones around here. Okay, there's a little, you can kind of see if I hold it up, there's a little tiny tail now. Two ears. I'm gonna put some little details in those ears, just like some tiny little indents. I'm gonna be careful though, because this is such soft soap that I could try to carve this all out, but I think I'm gonna keep it because I don't want to damage I want this to break through. I do want to make this shape maybe of two legs right here. Now that looks a little bit like a horse. That's okay, I guess. All right, once you kind of get the main shape carved out, then just grab your pencil and you can put in some details, like some eyes if you want. So you can see it, you can see a little bit of the detail that I've done. I've carved out that nose and the eyes. And now let's use a tool to make some texture on the side of this bear. So this little butter knife, actually, the texture is pretty nice. But we don't want it to look like long hair. Like, we don't want it to be a long-haired bear. So maybe what we'll do is use our toothpick and just like add some little scratching in there. So anyway, add your texture, add any details you want, and then you can place this in a nice place. You could use it tonight. Place it up in a really nice spot where everybody can see your amazing creation. And go wash your hands, for heaven's sake. Look at that. Also, maybe you could think of something you could make with these. How did it go? Was it a little bit harder than you thought? Was it easier than you thought? I'll tell you what, if it was harder than you thought, you are not alone. This project is hard even for 17-year-olds and even for people that are much older than that. But it's still fun, and I still think it's a good project to do. So you could wrap this up and give it to someone as a gift. It smells good. You could keep it and use it. Now what you can do, this is an extension. You can make another one of these if you want. Or you could get a piece of chocolate and maybe melt it so it's kind of thick like this and carve into it. And you could even use a little bit of water, maybe bite it to take the pieces off. I don't know. It's just an idea I had. I think it'd be fun to make something now out of chocolate like this. But I hope you had fun with this project, and I hope you have a really great day today.